So we have been thinking about God, Elohim, mankind. We see that God has a purpose, and that his purpose, well, he has a purpose with this planet and the living organisms on this planet. Um, and that's basically what we know the most about, uh, where we're at and what we see and everything. So we don't know all that much about different parts of the universe, what's going on. And so I don't think it's all that profitable to speculate too much, except I have a principle that I kind of operate by, and that is that the unknown is probably pretty similar to the known. And we don't know everything. There's far more unknown than there is known. Okay, so we can't be too dogmatic and say something exists somewhere else. Anyway, okay. So we're thinking about God, Elohim, and mankind. God has a purpose here on earth. And his purpose on the earth is to create a group of Elohim, or mighty beings, that he endows with his spirit. And so that's what we see in mankind. This is not the finished product. See, in the Bible, when you read the Bible, it talks about something being perfect all the time. That's always such a bad translation. Think complete instead of perfect. We are being completed. We are being formed into, well, those who choose to respond to God and do his will are being formed into the Elohim that God wants. Um, so anyway, getting back to this analogy. Now, so we are being made into Elohim. The Elohim created man in their image, and we are still right now being created into Elohim. So we've seen how man chose, well, Adam and Eve chose the animal nature instead of the godly spirit to live by. And so we see that our motivation, our center, that which derives our actions, is there's two competing forces here. One is the animal nature programming, and the other one is the godly spirit. The animal nature we're born with. That's just there. It's automatic. We don't have to do a thing to get animal nature. But the Spirit of God is an acquired thing. It's something that we acquire with diligence. Um, it says that, we're told that God exists, and that God is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So if we use our mind, the thing that God gave us, making us different from all the other robots, animal robots, we are given this free choice through our intellect, our mind, so that we can acquire new programming. We can acquire new motivations. I like motivations better than programming. So we can be like the Elohim if we choose to, only through effort. You cannot just ride through life doing nothing, just eating and drinking and eat, drink, and be merry. As it says in Proverbs. Is it Proverbs or is that? Oh, well, anyway. Um, if we just live to eat, drink, and be merry, we have chosen death. And it's your choice. God gives us a good life. I think you should appreciate God either way. If you're choosing to be an Elohim or an animal, you should still appreciate God. God's given you the ability to have the pleasures of the animal. You know, that's good. It makes me sad that everybody's choosing it, because it doesn't take much brain power at all to see the futility of it, and how, there's no long-term accomplishment from it. Anyway, if you choose to be a maggot or a bug or a worm or whatever you want to call it, an animal, that's your choice. But it's simple enough. If you choose to become an Elohim, part of the creative force instead of the destructive force, you're going. I said before how the shark is good. Everything's good. If you choose the animal nature, you are going to serve a good purpose according to God's will. You're going to eat, and you're going to change the contents of your food into other things that different life forms can use. You're going to die. You're going to rot. You're going to become fertilizer. Who knows all the wonderful, beautiful life forms that are going to come from that fertilizer. God's will is going to come about and is going to be good. That's a constant. But the thing is, you can only be a part of that thing with God by choice, by choosing. So, where we were talking about Adam and Eve and how they now they've expelled themselves. It says God, drove them out of the garden. But what it is they could not live in harmony with God in the Garden of Eden and in harmony with the flesh. The two are at opposition to each other. So man chose to serve the lust of the flesh, the selfishness, the greed, and the arrogance that drive the animal nature. Lust of the eye, greed. The lust of the flesh, selfishness. The pride of life, arrogance. So, I probably say that in every video, because I think it is so important. We need to know what our motivations are. We need to stop and think. We need to use this, what we're given, to become more than a maggot, you know. And I'm not saying anything wrong with being a maggot if that's what you choose. although I'll try to gently insult you into choosing to become an angel instead, you know. So anyway, mankind has these skins now that he's wearing, and each time they look at each other, they say, "Oh yes, I love this animal nature, but look, it brings death. You're wearing this skin; it brings death. So, maybe I shouldn't just do what feels good every time. Maybe I should think about it. Every time I look at that dead animal skin hanging on you, it makes me think." So anyway, this became a part of the religion, of man, that they would worship God, and they would kill animals, and they would realize that their inclinations bring death, that the animal and that animals die, that they're going to die. You have to have this. You can't have this arrogant idea that you are a god. That's how we're born. Everybody knows the younger you are, the more immortal you feel. And then and if you've got any brain left by the time you get old, because of the animal nature, you're always doing what feels good and tastes good, and then it destroys the beautiful system that God gives you, And so, anyway, okay, I just jump on these tangents. So we see that God gave them a covering for their animal nature. The covering is the knowledge that that the animal nature is death. So, if you want to serve God, you better understand that you can't serve two masters. You can. There's a lot of pleasures in the animal life, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the motivation, having them be your center, what drives you. If you're driven by your animal nature, you're dead. You're the Walking Dead. You're like the zombies, like the zombie apocalypse. You've chosen to be a zombie. It's a choice. Be a zombie or live to be an angel, right? So, I know there's probably people around the world uh, that don't grasp this thing about the zombies. It's a popular show with the kids, Zombie Apocalypse. You see them, the little kids playing Zombie Apocalypse stuff. I don't know. I've seen it on TV, although it's too idiotic and boring to hold my attention. So anyway, try and stay on track. I poisoned my brain, for quite a few years. I have a lot of problems now, with memory and that sort of thing. And you hear old people say, "Boy, it's a shame that youth is wasted on the young." When your body's in good shape and everything, and you're so arrogant and ignorant that you just go out and you just kill yourself as fast as you can. You eat poisons. You're just doing things that kill you. And then by the time that this beautiful system is almost totally wrecked, hopefully with some of it begins to dawn on us what we're doing, and that serving the animal nature just brings death, and it isn't satisfying. You after so many years of pursuing one lust after another, and when you acquire them, you say that's empty. Who cares? It doesn't make any difference. That's everything in the animal nature. All the things. They are all empty, futile things. Only things that are constant are godly. So anyway, back to Genesis and Adam and Eve, and they had these two sons. And with the two sons, that was Cain and Abel. And Cain was the firstborn, and Abel was the second. When you read the Bible, you don't read the Bible as a history book. You look for lessons. What are general principles that we can see? And here is one of the very first general principles that we're going to pick up. Here is in the two sons. The firstborn is the natural. The second one is the spiritual. Cain, like I said, monoculture, the growing of grains and stuff by killing off everything in the ground. This is a man-made invention. This is not part of the Garden of Eden, which is the godly thing. Anyway, so Cain gave what was required of him to God. How can I think of how you might do that? You might think, okay, if you believe in this idiotic Roman toga God sitting on a cloud throwing the lightning bolts, right? So we better do enough. Maybe if we go to church every Sunday, we'll keep the lightning bolts off, And this is basically the way I see Cain's offering. He gave what he had to, but Abel, now he saw the covering that God had given them to wear. And he used his brain. He used his mind to project the general principle from it. He's saying this animal nature brings death. And so he would sacrifice his animals, the animals to God. And God found that more pleasing than Cain's sacrifice. So, yeah, I'm talking all the time about, your pride, greed, and arrogance. Not pride, greed, and arrogance. Pride and arrogance. Your selfishness, greed, and arrogance. How these are the motivations of the animal. And when Cain saw that it was pleasing to God, Abel's sacrifice, and not his so much, he got peeved. He was irritated. He did not like it. He, in his arrogance, in the arrogance of his animal nature, he wanted to be the big shot. He wanted to be the one in control. He wanted the lust, right? Want, all that lust. He was unhappy that God was more pleased with Abel's sacrifice. And the thing is, he didn't think, well, maybe I should sacrifice like that. The Bible goes into this. He says, God tells him, the sin offering's right there. Go on, you can make a good offering too. But he didn't want to change his animal nature. He wanted God to serve him. And he was unhappy that he didn't. He was unhappy that God preferred Abel's sacrifice over his own. So, I plan on trying to make these talks shorter. I watched a couple of them. They seem pretty long, and I don't know if people are going to be interested in sitting that long nowadays, not with all the fleshly entertainment and everything. So I'm going to try and make it shorter. So anyway, Cain killed his brother, and we see the principle. First, the natural. Second, the spiritual. The natural has the power to kill the spiritual, and it takes place in your life. Use this general principle in motivating your own actions. All right? If you choose the animal nature over the spiritual, godly nature, the animal nature will kill that spiritual nature in you. They don't coexist. A man cannot serve two masters. He will either love the one and hate the other, or vice versa. You may see God as Cain did. You might want to make sure that you placate God and give him what he needs for you, for the wrong purpose, for your lusts, to serve your lusts, right? Or you can have a more godly nature and appreciate the fact that this animal nature brings death and that God brings life. You look at God's the creator of all the life on this earth. You see God in nature, you see God all around you. And if you see that and you love it and you love God and you want to be one with the creative spirit, then you choose to sacrifice the animal. That's what Abel did, right? He sacrificed these animals. This is a principle for us. We sacrifice our animal desires because of the goodness, of the godly motivation. So anyway, here's the general principle that you want to take. The animal nature will kill off the godly nature in you. You develop the godly nature, like we were talking about how God we see a manifestation of God in a magnet, and how it magnetizes and it brings order out of disorder when you put the iron filings, we see all this order come about. They all get lined up with the lines of flux. Well, there's lines of the creative spirit, too, that we can bring ourselves into alignment with. And the more we bring ourselves into alignment with God's Spirit, the stronger God's Spirit grows in us. It's not natural. It's something that is acquired. It's something that's learned. It's something that we use, what God has given us to make us different from all the maggots and the bugs and animals. We can use that to grow in godliness. I would encourage everyone that I care about, it's hard to always say what you want to say to people in front of them, because they always get insulted. I'm hoping this will work. I'm hoping I can say these things to everyone, and that nobody will take personal offense from it. Don't serve the animal nature. Learn godliness. Read the Bible. See God in nature. Do things every day that bring you closer to God. Appreciate the godliness, the gift of God that God has given you in yourself. Thank God for it. Thank God. Thank God for the food that you eat. Thank God for the things that He teaches you. Thank God for His Son and His holy word. Thank God for these things and partake of them. Let these lines of flux of godliness travel through you and magnetize you and make you more godly. Okay, I think I'm going to end this one here. I'm going to try to make more shorter videos.